long speech. It's very, you know. So I thought instead of doing that, I'll speak to you from the heart. I'm originally from Afghanistan, in case you didn't know. And people from my country constitute about 1 in 3 of every human being refugee in the world. And if we took the time that the Russians were there, and now the United States being there, 1 in 4 of every Afghan has been killed during the last 35 years. And for what? In my own case, my sister was killed, my father was killed, my father was killed by the Russians, and so on. The reason you are here, and you created the Iowa Forum in 2007, is to bring attention to something different, the Sudan. The Nubian culture is probably one of the oldest ones. I mean, there could be a fight between the Egyptian and the Nubians of who came first. It's an amazing nation and an amazing place. And in 2007, this university did a conference on Darfur, the first genocide of the 21st century. And we had over 1,000 people here, including Nick Kristof from the New York Times and Jerry Fowler from the Coalition of the Darfur. When Mr. Gratian was appointed by President Obama to represent the United States in 2009, we invited him here. He came and listened to people, and hopefully some policies were developed as a result of doing that job. And then the university took a lead with the coalition in Darfur, and we adopted 26,000 people in Chad, and we were able, with the help of many people in New Jersey, to be part of raising enough money to buy 2 solar cookers for every single one in that Chad refugee. And the reason that our students got involved, that our staff and faculty got involved, and the citizens of New Jersey got involved, is we are extremely active as a university in human rights. We're the only university in the northeastern United States to have a Human Rights Institute, and I believe you will have an opportunity to see what we have and what we do. We also have a Holocaust Resource Center, another one of the genocides of the 20th century, a horrible one. It's one of the oldest in the country and one of the most famous in terms of the oral history of all the survivors of the Holocaust we have accumulated over the last 30 years. But here, the reason you're sitting up here, most of you are academics and scholars, and you know more about it than I do, and I don't want to presume to give you advice on what needs to be done. But here's the thing. Try to think 80,000 years ago, or try to think 35,000 years ago by some accounts. So take the larger number and think 80,000 years, which in the life of this earth of 4.5 billion isn't that much. 35 years or 80,000 years ago, we all came from the same place. Every single one of them came from the same place, and maybe from a couple of hundred families somewhere in the Rift Valley or all the way down to South Africa. They haven't proved that yet. But we all came from the same place. So if you took me and put me in Sweden, for the next 50 generations, I will have blonde hair and I would look white. That is a fact. The environmental, physiological, and biological facts is what makes the distinction, because we all came from Lucy sometime. But how do human beings actually sit down and justify to do unto other human beings what they don't want done to them. Think about it for a second. The British, or maybe the Arabs later, invented this concept of making the other person much lower than he or she was. By saying, okay, if you are black and that dark, then you're not that smart. And henceforth, you're not human, and you could be sold. Religion came in. I'm trying to be as candid with you as I can. And he messed it up even more. That's what happened. What is the difference between a woman from South Darfur, a woman from Italy, or one from Canada? Just distance and geography. Go back 35,000 years ago, could have been your great-great-great-great-grandmother. So why do we do this? Sometimes we justify it in economic terms. The Dutch needed people to do mining in South Africa. They created a system. The British wanted to farm tobacco and cotton. They created a system. The original Anglo-Saxon Americans that came to the United States saw all the Indians, oh boy, you got land, we got to do something. All these things are done by a very small number of people that create that traditional hatred. And look at it now. Every day you pick up the paper, somebody blew up a truck with 20 people in it, and it was blown up by a Muslim who happens to be a Sunni that blew up a Shia. Does that make sense to you? Or look closer to home, Northern Ireland. All the same people, they eat the same potatoes, right? But one is Catholic, the other one is Protestant, and they kick the bazooka out of each other. We cannot live in this small little planet, which already has over 6 billion people, if we can't figure out a way of living with each other. And that's why I welcome you to KEAN University. That's why we're so proud to have you. And we are doing something about it here at KEAN. Causes a little problems with me with my collective bargaining agents, but hey, it's part of the deal. Every student at KEAN University within the next 5 years will take a course on diversity, genocide, and Holocaust, and all the forms of prejudice invented by man. We have already started the process, and we now offer enough sections, 900 students take it. We're the largest producer of teachers in the state of New Jersey, and by all accounts, the best one, because none of our students ever fail the state examination test. So we thought that the best way to do that is to reach out to the younger generation and say to them that that little girl next to you by the name of Crystal that happens to be black, or that other one next to you, Janine, that happens to be Hispanic, and that other one, Lisa, that happens to be white. Do you have anything against either one of the three? No, I don't. And they generally don't. Prejudice is learned, it's inculcated as part of the culture. And our hope is to reduce that. And today, I hope I'm not taking too much of your time, today it's even worse. Because back in the old days, you took a spear and killed somebody. Now somebody could be at 35,000 feet with a B-52 and kill an entire village in one shot. And they have done that, and I have seen it. If you ever go to a Buchenwald or an Auschwitz, and then you can see what the so-called civilized human beings can do. They figured out all of these people and says, well, all the ills of Germany belongs to the Jews. If it wasn't for the Juden or the Jews, none of these things would happen to Germany. They created systematic places with high level of technology to cheaply gas and kill people because they were Jewish. Well, look back at the Sudan, the Janjaweeds. How did these people actually have done things that you will find repugnant? Go over there, burn the tent, kill everybody in it. And the distinction being, you think about it. If you have respect for human rights, meaning respect for your right as a human being, it cannot be done for you alone. You have to respect somebody else's. The reason most of these things fail is because we specifically focus on that specific things. We do a conference on the Holocaust, and most interested people are of Jewish origin. We do a conference on the Sudan or on Bangladesh or on Armenia, most of the interested people come from those origins. Now, the only way to do that in a modern democracy is for all of us to say, if you don't have what I want to have, I will lose it in a generation. And you won't. Systems, political systems in particular, are capable of wiping out things that you never thought were possible. Sit over here in the United States and say, well, democracy will never go away in the US, equality will never go away in the US, and discrimination wouldn't come back. You could be wrong. It has historically happened. It might happen again. And the other thing about history, it's a horrible, horrible thing. Most people say you learn from history. Give it time, you forget. That's the part of history I don't like. Give it time, and you will forget. And if you give it time, you do forget. And once you forget, a new one is created. A new one comes about. And I hope that all the research you will present, I hope all the work that you would do, would lead into something tangibly specific, to some sort of activism and some sort of specific thing that we all can do together to prevent the loss of life of a little boy or a little girl in Darfur or in Southern Sudan. Well, they became two countries now. Maybe they're geographically separate. But has the violence stopped? As a matter of fact, this morning I read the violence is picking up again. Think about it, and I'll tell you what my father told me a long time ago. People who reach their own objectives go to sleep very happy. People who reach their own objectives go to sleep very happy. But people who help somebody else realize their dream get up in the morning even happier. I hope you get up in the morning even happier. Thank you.